ठीक है, it's fine.
Insurance is automatically right. One guy's need the eye. Check the lead.
Hello, can we settle down? We're about to start. Thank you. Mobile phones in silent mode, please. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Director, PGP Chair, our keynote speaker, Colonel Arvendan, our CEO, Hostel Administrative Officer, Komala Devi, ma'am, PGPO Manager, Shilpa ma'am. Welcome, you all. Members of the faculty, and of course, the student fraternity from across the country. It is a pleasure and privilege to have you here with us. Now, it is eminently desirable to have opening lines that are good and original. But sadly for me, the good parts are not so original and the original parts are not so good. Notwithstanding, I'll try my best, and the best, whose opening we shall now declare, shall more than amply compensate for the foible. Eximius, the flagship phones in silent mode, please. Oh, excellent. Eximius, the flagship entrepreneurship and innovation summit of IIM Bangalore, is one of the most celebrated festivals hosted in the Indian business school community. And every year, Eximius has witnessed tremendous participation from colleges, corporates, and individuals from across the nation. In the 16th edition of the fest, the Eximius team has again delivered on this legacy. And as our campus welcomes renowned speakers, academicians, entrepreneurs, panelists, eminent professors, students, and performers, this weekend shall stand testimony to the spirit of IIM Bangalore in its pursuit to nurture ideas and encourage diversity of thought and opinion, where we all come together to build something that is so much larger than our individual aspirations. We thank each and every one of you for taking out the time and effort to be here with us, and extend our heartfelt welcome to our guests, and hope you will share in some measure at least in the joy that we get in hosting you all. And if you have the time, take a walk in this beautiful campus that we call home. Without further ado, I now request the dignitaries on stage for the lighting of the lamp.
Thank you for this auspicious start to the evening. Now I'd like to request Professor Rishikesh Krishnan, the Director of IIM Bangalore, to address our audience in a few words.
Hi, good evening. So I'm really happy to see that there's so many of you here today to join us in starting this year's Eximius. We have a lot of events on the IMB student calendar every year, but Eximius is one of the most interesting and exciting ones because it focuses on a very important theme, that is innovation and entrepreneurship. Every year we have a galaxy of wonderful speakers, a whole lot of other events. And all of these are, of course, directed towards kindling the spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship among our own students and, of course, among all of you guests who are with us here every year. So I'd like to congratulate the Eximius team for putting together another wonderful set of events this year. And I'm sure we're going to have a really exciting time later this evening and tomorrow as you go through all the events. It goes without saying that both innovation and entrepreneurship are extremely important for the growth and progress of our country and, of course, the world as well. And I'm sure that many of you have a lot of exciting ideas. I hope you will have the energy, determination, perseverance, and whatever else it takes to convert those ideas into successful enterprises. At IMB, we have a long history of being supportive of entrepreneurship, not only for our students, but for others as well. Our NS Raghavan Center for Entrepreneurial Learning has been around for more than 20 years now. We were one of the first institutes to identify the criticality of innovation and entrepreneurship and set up a specialized center focused on that. Our incubator has supported literally thousands of ventures, and we have multiple ways in which we connect with the broader entrepreneurial ecosystem. Of course, today is not the day to talk about NSRCL, but if any of you are interested, please do look it up on our site and figure out if there's some way you can get associated with it. So let me also take this opportunity to welcome Ankur, who is our speaker for this session. And I'm sure he has a lot of interesting insights to share with us. Let me congratulate the Eximius team for putting together this wonderful event. I know any event of this kind requires a huge amount of effort. I'm sure many sleepless nights and lots of time off from their other academic activities to focus on this. So my compliments to the team. And I just like all of you guys to be a little careful. I'm a bit worried that you're blocking all the aisles. Just please look at all the exit doors and make sure you identify them. There are 4 of them, one there, and 2 on the sides. And just make sure that even though there's an emergency, you know how to get out without, having us. No, it's a serious matter because I think we don't take safety in India as seriously as we should. So please just make sure you know how to get out and just be sensitive and aware of what's going on around you so that you can make an exit if you need to. So once again, have a great time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for those enlightening words. Now I request Professor R. Srinivasan, the PGP Chair of IIM Bangalore, to briefly address the audience on the occasion.
Good evening. Welcome to IIM Bangalore. Apart from what Director Rishi has spoken to you, this Eximius is one of the very unique festivals. I don't think a lot of business schools do entrepreneurship-focused festivals. More importantly, the key differentiator that Eximius also has is it's not just focused on startups. A lot of people confuse entrepreneurship with startups. It's not just about startups. It's about cultivating a mindset of entrepreneurship. A lot of our education, a lot of our incubation, a lot of work that we do at IIM Bangalore is about building entrepreneurial mindset. You may work for a large corporation, you may work for a small corporation, you may be an independent YouTuber, you may be doing stealth mode businesses, but you still need to be having an entrepreneurial mindset. And a lot of speakers don't look like necessarily they are from startup world. They're not necessarily founders, but they're necessarily bringing you about entrepreneurial mindset. So in this 50th year of IIM Bangalore, our Golden Jubilee year, in the 16th year of Eximius, we want you to not necessarily think like startups, but build entrepreneurial mindset. Spend the next day and a half that you're here on campus, try and see how you can build that kind of a mindset. Quite a lot of narrative in the popular media is about MBAs don't make entrepreneurs, management don't make entrepreneurs, but we believe at IIM Bangalore that we can build entrepreneurial mindsets. very different than just creating entrepreneurs. The second thing that I want to leave you with is also about enjoying the events, being part of the conversation. One of the key things that you want to be as entrepreneurs, entrepreneurial mindset is about being able to challenge, is about able to challenge the status quo, engage with the audience, right? Possibly this should be the quietest, the audience we should see. In other sessions, other events, you should possibly be engaging much, much more, ask questions, not just passively receive information. Passively receiving information is so primary school, right? We're not here to do primary school learning. If you're here in an entrepreneurship festival, you should be able to challenge, you should be able to ask more questions. So engage, ask questions, challenge the status quo, challenge ideas, create new ideas. And possibly, if at the end of tomorrow evening, a lot of you go back with one idea in your mind, I think the Eximius has done a good job. At this time, I also compliment the Eximius team who has put together a variety of speakers, the speakers from as young as 30s to as old as 60s, right? All of these people come with diverse, broad, deep experience, leverage, learn, enjoy the days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the words of wisdom. Now, students at IIM Bangalore are rather fond of the word spearheaded. And I can think of no better context to put this in than for the gentleman who was at the helm of affairs for this mammoth task of organizing this fest, with a powerful core team of 50 members. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Satvik Laskar, Chief of the Organizing Committee, whose efforts find culmination in Eximius 23. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Apratim. You're not so kind when you meet me in the mess at dinner. So needless to mention, entrepreneurship is a concept in everyone's minds these days, probably because of the growing ecosystem, startup ecosystem, or the presence in media. As members of the organizing committee, we faced a lot of challenges, starting with explaining why we need it or how it elevates the larger purpose of being in a business school, and why the entrepreneurial spirit is required not merely for startups, but in the very essence of corporate development. Today, at this inaugural ceremony, as I stand back and look back at these milestones, the triumphs and the disappointments that we faced and battled together, I'm both proud and humbled. This would not have been possible without the effort of the four verticals: infra, sponsorship, PR, and events, and the countless stakeholders from across both the batches who have worked day in and day out to make this a success. I think our biggest moment of joy took place when we crossed 50,000 registrations and closing in at almost 55,000, a record number for Eximius this so far. Spanning over 20 to 25 events and competitions with participants from across the country. I think the second moment of joy was when we secured the consent of speakers of eminence, such as Kiran Bedi, Ankur Warikoo is seated with us today, and several preeminent personalities from several domains whom we shall have the privilege of hosting over the weekend. Next, I want to talk about our flagship events, which we have greatly scaled up. Picture Perfect, which is IMB's own version of Shark Tank, has the likes of 100x VC coming to invest in startups. We also have Ideathon, which is the first of its kind hackathon happening in IIM Bangalore, where students are solving problem statements over a night. Lastly, I want to thank individually each of the verticals that have worked with me. Special thanks to the infra team for bringing brilliant pro night artists and the beautiful decor in campus. The PR team has been pivotal for us to reach the 54,000 registration mark and ensuring continuous engagement on all platforms. Thanks to the sponsorship team for making sure we have the necessary resources to make this possible on a grand scale. And last but not the least, the events team for the numerous panels, competitions, and the speakers. But more importantly, thanks to the ones who work behind the curtain, the backend teams, the volunteers, the entire OC with their Excel sheets and the logistic functions. Thank you all. I'm very grateful for the team I've worked with, and I will forever cherish the memory of having served a purpose. The fest is like our child, and we are blessed to have you all here. Thank you. I present to you Eximius 2023. I'll hand it over to Chetna to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Ankur Warikoo, for the opening ceremony.
Thank you, Satvik. Dear esteemed guests, faculty, students, and fellow enthusiasts of entrepreneurship and innovation. Team Eximius is absolutely thrilled to announce a man whose journey through the world of business and entrepreneurship has inspired countless individuals like you and me. Get ready to be energized, enlightened, and entertained by none other than the dynamic Ankur Warikoo. Armed with an MBA from ISB, Ankur embarked on a journey that has spanned diverse sectors and experiences, each contributing to his profound understanding of business dynamics. One title isn't enough to define him. He is a serial entrepreneur, an angel investor, a mentor, a TEDx speaker, and a best-selling author. He is also the founder of Nearby, India's largest hyperlocal online platform, and host of his popular podcast, Voice with Warikoo. From his early days as an ambitious student to his adventures in the corporate world, he's seen it all. But what sets him apart is his ability to connect with people, to ignite that spark of curiosity and motivation that makes us all want to go out there and make things happen. Same can be seen throughout his insightful books. His writing is not just about theory, it's about real life experiences, practical advice, and the kind of stuff you can actually apply in your own journey to make it more meaningful and successful. His dynamic achievements have been feted on various platforms. He has been featured in Forbes India's 30 under 30 list, Fortune India's 40 under 40 list, and Business World's Young Entrepreneur list. Today, as we gather to hear from this esteemed luminary, I invite you to open your minds and hearts to the wisdom, vision, and inspiration that Ankur Warikoo embodies. So without much ado, brace yourselves for an engaging, thought-provoking, and undoubtedly entertaining session. Get ready to be inspired, and let's give a thunderous welcome to a true visionary, the man himself, Ankur Warikoo.
Thank you, Chetna. That was embarrassingly well done. I was almost like, when will she stop? Is this me? It's a joy and privilege to be amongst all of you. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be on this campus every time I am. The inviting nature of not just the nature on this campus, but also the students and of course, everyone here who's present, who's a visitor just as I am onto the campus. Thank you for having me. It's also my second time at Eximius. The last time I was here, people didn't know of COVID and it was a very different world. And here we are after several years of hardship and struggling to make things work for us, but we are, and that's the power of human resilience. And in some way, it's going to reflect what I wanted to talk to you all about as well. In fact, it was alluded to by the PGP chair, and I loved the thought that he shared, and that is, it's very easy, particularly in today's world and particularly in this generation, to believe that an entrepreneur is the one who starts a startup, has this cool tech company, enters Third Wave Cafe with a MacBook, and everything attached to the notion of what startups are. And we very quickly tend to lose the essence that entrepreneurs are made in here. They're not made by the funding that they get. They're certainly not made by the products or services that they build, which may or may not succeed. But you could very well be a corporate employee and yet be the finest entrepreneur that that company has. And you could very well run the most magnificent company in your head and never be as close to being an entrepreneur as you thought you are. Because it takes a very different mindset to think and act like an entrepreneur. So, opinion poll first. How many of you here have ambitions of starting your own company, say, in the next 5 years? People didn't even wait to finish my question. Okay. How many of you here feel that you would love to start your career with a corporate job? Okay, that's perfectly fine. And how many of you are not sure of which of these two? So you're still kind of making your decision. All right, fair enough. How many of you have ever worked before? How many of you have worked before? Quite a few of you. All right. I'm not talking internships, by the way. I recognize that as meaningful work, but okay, maybe I've touched a wrong nerve. Okay, it's not. Full-time work outside of college. How many of you? Okay, quite a few of you. So that's a great mix. In my experience, and to give a little bit of background about where I'm coming from, I was not meant to be doing what I'm doing right now. In fact, I wanted to be an academic, pretty much find myself on this dais, not as a keynote speaker, where somebody who's serving academic institutions. I went to the US for my PhD, which was in astrophysics. I wanted to become a space scientist. I wanted to work at NASA. That was the place to be. And I wanted to finally find myself on Mars, which was the holy grail growing up in the 1980s, 1990s. Still is, by the way, but it's become more pop culture than academic pursuits. And I went to the US, did 2 years of coursework, thoroughly enjoyed my time, but also recognized that's not what I wanted to do in life. And at the age of 24, much to my parents' disappointment and dismay, I dropped out of my PhD program and came back to India with no idea of what I wanted to do, no sense of what life would be about. And I don't come from any point of privilege. We come from a very, very humble background. Dad and mom really struggled to make my sister and I get to the point where we are today. They gave us great values, a fine education. But in terms of money, it wasn't like, oh, you could do whatever you wanted with your life because that's taken care of. Nearly not. So I'm here, 24, no idea what to do, absolutely confused. And my friends are like, look, you're confused. So why don't you do what most confused people do? Go get an MBA. I'm sorry. I have to, there will be several points where I'll apologize to all of you. And that was the truth at that point of time, perhaps still is to a great extent. You go for an MBA, not because you know what you want to do, but because you have no idea what you want to do. And I had so many of my friends who had gone for the MBAs and IIMs and so on. So I wasn't sure of whether that would be the right thing for me or not. And as luck would have it, and I call it luck genuinely because that is what it was, I come across this rather young school. This is 2005 I'm talking about. It's a 5-year-old school, so it's a big gamble whether the school will even exist after 5 years or not. An insanely expensive program, but a 1-year MBA, which is a completely new phenomenon in India, never done before. And the best thing about it, which fascinated me, was if I did get through that program, my batchmates would be people with real work experience. And the reason it was fascinating was because I had zero perspective of what the real world was. I had no idea. I was a physics geek. All that I knew about was Einstein, Archimedes, Oppenheimer, Madame Curie. And that was my world. I had no idea what sales is, what marketing is, what finance is, IT is, HR is, supply chain is. So for me to spend time with such people would be the best training platform. So I did sit for the CAT, but I finally thought that my pursuit should be ISB, and I applied to the ISB, and God bless the person who saw my application and thought that I was worth to be in that school, because that 1 year just fundamentally changed me. It gave me such a shock therapy of what real life is, which is what I'm going to share with a lot of you. And I think I got the answer to the most important question that I was seeking at that point of time. And that is, how do you really go about living life when you know for a fact that your plans are, bullshit? Now, you can make all the plans in the world, and I did. I made the grandest plan for myself in my life. From a very young age, I knew that I wanted to become a scientist, go to the US, get to NASA, be on Mars, and I was doing well on it, and yet life did not happen the way that I had planned for it. So I was left disillusioned that if even my best plan doesn't work, then what hope in hell do I have to make and come up with another plan? And I need an answer to a very odd question that I asked. What kind of an approach towards life can set me up for life even if I don't have a plan? If I don't have a plan for my life, is there a certain way that I can approach life that sets me up? And I found the answer to that question while at ISB. While at ISB, I also found out there is a really cool profession called consulting. And consulting is fascinating because you get to work with very smart people on real life business problems, get paid a lot of money. And I was like, this is the best way for me to learn something about the world that I don't. So I started preparing for consulting jobs, and I got through a really good consulting firm. And the next thing I know, as a 26-year-old, I'm sitting in the boardrooms of really large companies, telling them on how they should be running their business. Basis the Excel sheet that I have made, basis my understanding of their business, of which I had no idea until 2 weeks back. And I was like, how does this make sense? Why aren't you throwing me out? Like, I'm 26 years of age. You've worked in this company for longer than I've lived on this planet. This relationship is not equal. But they weren't for some reason complaining. If they weren't, I wasn't complaining one bit, because every single day I was getting to learn so much that it fascinated me. And a year and a half passes by, and I'm meeting with a friend of mine from business school, ISB, same batch. And he's like, hey, I've started this new website. I wanted to talk to you about it. I said, sure, what's it called? And he said, it's called secondshadi.com. And I was like, is it what I think it is? He's like, yeah, man, it's a matrimonial website for remarriages. There's so many people who get married in India. So there's bound to be people who get divorced and widowed. And this is a platform for them to get married again. And I was like, that is such an incredible idea. How did you think about this? He's like, no, my dad thought about this. I had the exact same reaction, except I couldn't laugh at his face. And I was like just giggling inside as like, I hope uncle and auntie are having a happy marriage. But in my head was like, this is so good. I want to contribute. Is there a way that you can involve me? And he's like, yeah, I think you and I can make a great team. Do you want to do this together? And I was like, look, I'm thoroughly enjoying myself in consulting. I'm having a ball of a time. And I think it'll be foolish for me to just give all of that away to join you. But I don't want to say no to this opportunity as well. So if it's okay, and I really hope it's okay, whatever time is left out of consulting, which is a few minutes in a day, I will just spend with you and let's just see where it goes. And he was very gracious about it. That sure, let's make it happen. We'll see. So for the next 1.5 years, I had a day job as a consultant. During nighttime, I was Batman trying to get people married again. And it actually worked. Second Shadi launched. It got to a certain size and scale where there was repute, there were people coming in, there was revenue being made, there were profits being made, and it suddenly required my full-time attention. So I decided to then quit consulting, take a 80% pay cut or some random number like that, down to the bare minimum financial amount I needed to survive, and join secondshadi.com. And we did that for a couple of years. And we got an opportunity to sell one of our websites to a large South African internet company, which is not material right now. And there were 3 founders. We went our way. And I was looking for the next thing to do and figure out what I wanted to. And I come across this company called Groupon. And Groupon had just started in the US in 2008. This is 2010 I'm talking about. And they were growing like crazy all across the world. So they wanted to start multiple country offices, India being one of them. And they were looking for people to start that business. I got in touch with them. I liked them. They liked me. And the next thing I know, in 2011, I started the Groupon India business for Groupon. Did that for 4 years. Was part of an executive team, senior leadership, flying to Chicago every 3 months, hobnobbing with the finest in the world and so on. But inside of me, I knew this wasn't what was giving me the true measure of building something that I wanted to feel. And the reason was because I was still an employee. And 2, the focus that Groupon had on India was abysmally low for no fault of theirs, because their largest markets were US and Europe. But I felt that the India opportunity was magnum opus, and I wanted to do something about it. So in a moment of craziness, which has come to define my life in much order, I go to the Groupon headquarters and I say, I want to buy the Groupon India business from you, and I want to make it into an independent entity. It's called a management buyout, which I had studied at ISB, but I had no idea what that meant. And they laughed at me. They're like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You're a 100% subsidiary of a publicly listed company listed in the US. This thing is not easy. In fact, it has never been done in India. I was like, well, that's not the reason it can't happen. Let's talk. And it took about 9 months of convincing. And we were able to convince them. We partnered with Sequoia Capital. We raised money and we bought the Groupon India business from Groupon. And that made an independent entity that started in 2015 called Nearby.com. And Nearby.com ran for 2 years. It was then invested by Paytm. 2017, we became a Paytm company. And in 2019, when we became profitable for the first time after 4 years of intense struggle, I decided to step down as the CEO of my own startup because I felt my time was over. And I loved my founders and I believed that they could do the job far better than I could. And I wanted to do what lay ahead of me. Again, with no idea of what that could be. And I decided to take a 3-month break at the end of 2019. And in those 3 months, March 2020 happened. And that March 2020 just threw all of us in a disarray. Like we had no idea what hit us. We had to reimagine every single thing that we had learned so far because somehow nothing made sense anymore. And that was true for me as well. At the age of 40, I had to reimagine my whole life and start, in some sense, all over again. And I did that. So I stand here today in 2023, after 3 years, perhaps in your eyes as somebody who's a public figure, somebody who's an entrepreneur, somebody who's worthy of being called on this stage. And thank you so much for that. But in my head, this hasn't happened in the last 3 years because it can't happen in the last 3 years. Nothing of this order can happen in 3 years. So when I wake up every day and I find myself living this life, which I'm so grateful for, the only question I ask myself is, how did I land up here? And I recognize that that shift happened when I came back from that US experience of mine, disillusioned with the fact that my plans didn't work and craving to find out an approach in life where you didn't need plans to make things work for you. And here are the 3 things that I figured, which I now call the entrepreneurial mindset. It has nothing to do with you starting up, as the PGP chair said. It has nothing to do with you owning a business. It has nothing to do with you owning equity. It has nothing to do with you raising money. It is all to do with how do you go about living life every single day when it hits you. And here are the 3 components. Number 1, go back to the day when you first stepped foot on campus. If you're from IIM Bangalore, this campus. If you're from outside, the campus that you were on. And you were surrounded by people who came from completely different walks of life. They looked different from you. They spoke differently from you. They dressed differently from you. They had a very different worldview from you, a very different way of looking at things. And in that heterogeneous mix, the first thing you wanted to do was to find people who are like you. That's the first thing you want to do. You just want to look for people who are like you. And I saw that happen at ISB. I went in there, first week itself, groups are formed. Engineers with engineers, chemical with chemical, mechanical with mechanical, Bombay with Bombay, South Bombay with South Bombay, Delhi with Delhi, Sarojini Nagar with Sarojini Nagar, dance with dance, music with music. Everyone wanted to form these groups, belong, feel like they're part of a tribe. And I was like, isn't this the exact opposite of what you should be doing? Like, somebody has genuinely gone through the hard work of selecting 330 eclectic people from across the world, put them on a campus for 1 year, and you're going to spend time with the 5 people who are like you? That's such a disaster of an opportunity. And I don't know anything about you right now, but I have been you to know enough about you to know that you're making the exact same mistakes right now. You're hanging out with people who you think are like you. You are in your cocoon, in your tribe, because you're high-fiving every day. See, agree? Yes, agree. Bro, that's exactly how it happens. I don't know what they're thinking. And that mentality, that mindset, where you're dismissing people because you think they're not like you, is the single biggest reason why you will remain with a fixed mindset. You're never going to learn something that somebody else knows and you don't. So go back to the first day of your campus. In fact, right now. And you scan this room. And when you scan this room, there are bound to be these 2 or 3 people that you look at. And you're like, nahin. Inke saath hang out nahi ho payega. They are the ones that you need to be spending time with. Because you're so fixed in your mindset that they do not know anything that can help you in your life. You refuse to see how they see the world differently from you. And an entrepreneurial mindset starts with the principle, I know nothing. I know nothing about the world. And for me to know everything about the world, I have 2 choices. Either live my entire life trying to figure it out, or spend time with people who know something about the world that I don't. So here's a request. You still have time, even if you are in second year or your final year. Spend time with people, getting to know their perspective about the world, because that will open you up to a whole new perspective about yourself and the world. Number 2. First week, ISB, and I'm sure this happened here as well. And I'm sure everyone here will testify. In fact, I was asking Director Rishi, you've been here for how long? He's like, long enough. I'm like, Phil, still, there must be a number. It's like 27 years. I was like, awesome. And this is my favorite question whenever I meet someone who's so senior and has been at one institution for this long. What's the biggest shift that you've seen in students from then to here? And of course, had an answer. And I was curious. I was like, do you see students being more entitled right now? And he was very honest. Like, no, not at all. They were entitled always. Which, hand on heart, is true. You, and I'm speaking specifically to IIM Bangalore, but no offense meant to anybody else who did not make it, which includes me. You believe you're God's gift to humankind because you made it through CAT, which you're disappointed is not ranked above IIT JEE as the toughest examination in India, but it still is intensely tough. You are amongst the brightest students that this country has to offer. You have companies, even though you may not agree right now, you have companies falling over themselves to come and recruit and give you everything that you want. And you have every intellectual and infrastructural horsepower right at your disposal from this wonderful cocoon that you've built in. And you step outside of this fancy campus and you hit real world that you're like, oh my God, how do people stay here? And all of those, which tricks you into believing that you deserve to be here, that you have worked hard enough to be here. And now I'm speaking to everybody. You don't deserve to be where you are in life, period. You don't deserve to be where you are in life. None of us in this room, including this elite audience, certainly me, we don't deserve to be where we are in life. We just lucked out. We lucked out because we were born in a family that took care of us, gave us food, shelter, upbringing, love, education, values, because of which we sit on opportunities that we have taken for granted all our life. And millions of people outside of this fancy campus will never get to experience even a second of their lives. They work far harder than you will ever work in your life. And a lot of them are far smarter than you will ever believe them to be. But you stand in front of the mirror and you actually have the audacity to pat yourself on the back and say, I deserve to be here. And I deserve the world to now follow my orders. No, they don't. The entrepreneurial mindset is never entitled. Never entitled. In fact, they keep pinching themselves. They refuse to believe that they're getting to live this opportunity. And I include myself in there. Humble brag, but it's true. I wake up every single day and this is Aditya. Aditya, say hi. He's the one who edits all of my videos. So if you like them, he's here. If you don't, never mind. I wake up every day. I have a fantastic team, people like him multiple times over. I have the love and admiration of a lot of people that I have never met personally. And every single day, I kid you not, I find myself expressing this to my wife and often to myself. How the F did we land up here? Like, what the hell just happened? And I just pinch myself and remind myself, this is not what you deserve. It's what you have been given. Earn it. Go and effing earn it. Every single day, show up and work so hard that you stand in front of the mirror and hope in hell that you can find yourself saying, I think I did enough to earn it. The entrepreneurial mind does not get entitled, which brings me to the third and last point about this. Think of your world around you right now. Think of everything that you have, products, services at your disposal. And everything is designed for, frankly, only one thing, your comfort. Everything is designed for your comfort. You need a book? Click. You need a cab? Click. You need clothes? Click. Movies? Click. Music? Click. Love? Swipe right. Whatever you need. At the speed of thought, available to you, at your disposal. So it tricks you into believing that the purpose of life is to make life comfortable. When ironically, if you were to look at people that you are inspired by, that you would want to be, that you look up to, you will see that on a daily basis, they are picking up the path of maximum resistance. They're not picking up the easy path. Go back to your life as a student. And it's just so easy. And I see this and it pains me that you would pick the comfortable path while being a student. You're scared of coming up on stage and addressing a crowd, and you still wouldn't do that for all of the years that you were in college. You're scared of approaching strangers, and you still wouldn't gather the audacity and the courage to step and have a conversation with a complete stranger. You're scared of following a routine, getting up early or getting yourself fit, and you still wouldn't do that because you come up with some lame-ass excuse of why life is so busy as a student. And here's the trick. Nobody told you so, but this is true. Take it from somebody who's graduated pretty much like you did. Nothing of what you do in college is going to destroy your life. No mistake that you make here is going to destroy your life, unless, of course, it's illegal. But nothing, no mistake, and yet you wouldn't make it. And yet you will fall for the trap of comfort. You are shit scared to stand on stage because you're scared of what? Your peers laughing at you? That's what you're scared of? That's what in some way brings down shivers down your spine? That your batchmates who are just as shit scared as you are going to laugh at you? And that's why you don't want to make that move? And you will continue to live in that zone of comfort? Shame. Because that's not what the entrepreneurial mind does. The entrepreneurial mind recognizes that orbit shift only happens when you don't get comfortable. Nothing has come easy in life. All the things that you need in life to truly make you fulfilled are going to take time and intense hard work. And if you were to settle for the comfort, you are falling in the same trap that the world has laid out for you. So combine these three things. Spending time with people who are nothing like you, doing it in a manner that you never feel entitled, and doing it in a space and mindset where you never, ever get comfortable, you have what I stand here as a living example of, a way to live life without a plan. Because trust me, this approach itself will make life happen for you in a way that you cannot even comprehend sitting here on your chair today. Because I remember if in 2004, when I came back from the US, I met with somebody, and if that somebody would be like, hey, what's up, Ankur? I am from the future. So you will be happy to know that time travel has been invented, as somebody who's just left physics, but still there is some blood in you that remains like that. But there are more important things that I want to tell you. Do you want to know what's happening to you in 2023? And I was like, no, I will tell you. Here's what's happening to you in 2023. In 2023, you'll have close to 10 million people follow you on something called social media, which, by the way, has never happened before. It's a really cool thing. When it happens, it will take the world over. You would also have written 2 best-selling books, the names of which and I cannot pronounce because of moral obligations. I will also be very happy to tell you that you will be invited by the finest institutions across the world to address their students, the finest organizations across the world to address their employees, all of which you will be doing by working less than 20 hours a week. You'll ever know how to spend, and you will be insanely happy. And my reaction to that dude would be, jo bhi phuk raha hai, band kar de. Because this could not have been planned. There was no way the 2004 Ankur could have planned to be here. And I'm not here because I'm the smartest person you will come across or the most hardworking person you'll come across. I'm here because of a mindset shift that planted a seed in me that made me an entrepreneur long before I became one, as per the media and the true definition of it. And my humble admission to all of you on this fine occasion of Eximius getting launched, 16th edition, no mean feat, is the biggest takeaway for you should be, it is not necessary for me to start up to become an entrepreneur, but it is critical for me to think like an entrepreneur, to believe that I am one. Because if I don't, then my life is that of an employee. And an employee mindset, with no offense meant, but please take some, is that where you're constantly waiting for orders to come your way. You don't ever feel that you're in control. You feel somebody else is owning your destiny. You don't want to be in that spot. I certainly wouldn't wish that for you. And I know that every single individual in this august gathering is capable of taking charge of their destiny and becoming an entrepreneur in their mind. I've spoken for longer than I wanted to. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Very few people can speak so many truths so quickly and do it in so eloquent a way that we feel like we still want more. So thank you so much for that. The floor is open for questions. So can somebody,
And how much time do we have so that I'm mindful of it?
around 20 minutes, 25 minutes?
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Sure,
Perfect.
sure.
Great. Please, questions come your way. Show of hands, and then we'll have the mic come your way or yours. Great. Why don't you start, and then we'll come to you. Go ahead.
Hi, Ankur. I'm Puneet Suman. I produce a podcast called Galata. My quick question is, what shifts did you make in your personal life to move from life of comfort to life of maximum resistance? What did you shift?
Oh, there's only one shift, and the question is whether you can make that shift or not, and the shift is to have the right partner. There's nothing else. I genuinely believe, and I don't know how many of you are already in a relationship, but please take your time. There's no hurry at all, because this one decision is going to impact your financial outcome, it's going to impact your emotional outcome, and it's going to impact your physical outcome. And you don't want to mess with these three outcomes. So I genuinely lucked out that I have a partner in Ruchi who thinks very similar to me, has the same mindset as me. We frankly couldn't care less of losing everything that we have from a societal success point of view, because we know that we have each other and we have a lovely family, and that's enough. We know we have enough. And when we know we have enough, there's very little that can perturb you to be shaky or fearful of what life holds ahead. Once you get into that mode, difficulty is just a measure of mind. There is no scale, like there is no absolute measure or barometer of difficulty. It's what you conceptualize it to be, but it just becomes rather easy once you have somebody who's just so well aligned, which is where the admission that my partner lucked out. Oh, did I say my partner lucked out? I lucked out. Sorry, Ruchi. Yes.
Sir, how did you start your content creation journey?
How did I start my career? What were you doing for the last 1 hour?
No, sir.
Oh, what was I doing? Sorry, I take that
No.
on to me.
How did you get motivated or start to content creation and all?
Oh, content creation. Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you said. A lot of people think this is the case, and please have a. I was given a really cool name. I was at a podcast before this event, and they called me a COVID star, which basically signifies somebody who rose up during COVID and became a star, which to a physics student is very unsettling because I know what stars are. So very few people know this. I have been creating content since 2005. I have a daily blog that I've been writing since April 2005, which is when I joined ISB, and I wanted to document my journey as a business school student. I still write that blog every single day. It's been 18 years. I started creating content on LinkedIn in 2013. It's been a decade. I have been creating content on YouTube and on Instagram and someplace else since 2017. The big difference of why people ask me this question of content creation or not is I did it on my own, right? So I frankly couldn't care of what it was doing because, again, man with no plan. I don't have a plan. I just signed myself up for a process. I'm a very, very boring person by that nature. I can do the exact same thing every single day and not get bored. So my job was just create this content because I think that I would have loved this content if I were somebody else at that age and time. And that's what I did. And in 2020, when COVID happened and when I had time on my hands, I thought, hey, I've been doing this for donkey's years now. Why don't I just formalize it and give it a little more meaning than I do today? So I built a team around it. We became a lot more orchestrated. Aditya and the likes of him, they joined in. And that's where the content creation journey started. It wasn't something that happened one fine day. It's been in the works for 18 plus years.
Hi, Ankur. This is
Yes.
Monica.
Hi.
So, every one of us starts with a big dream, right? So we think that is our entire future. But at some point, when we feel this will not work out, and there is a fear to, take a pivot in our career. So I think the same situation happened with you. So how tough that situation was, and how did you, have that courage to move on and to have a great life now?
So it's a very honest question. I'll give you a genuine, honest answer while it will sound like humble brag. I have this philosophy in life that has held me in good faith for a really long time. And that philosophy is what's called the worst case simulation method. It's an approach towards life. It's a foundation of Stoic principles and philosophy, but I got to know of that much later. Worst case simulation method is whatever you want to do, hand on heart, you always know whether you want to do it or not. So the first admission is don't lie to yourself, because who else would you lie to? But of course, not yourself. So don't lie to yourself. You will know what you want to do. If you know what you want to do, and you're scared of doing it because responsibilities, fear of failure, log kya kahenge, XYZ, whatever the combinations are, just imagine what is the worst thing that can happen if you were to take the decision you want to take. The worst thing that can happen. And then close your eyes and meditate on that thing happening in real life. So here's an example. When I went to ISB, I did not know whether that would be the right choice for me or not. I had to take a 14 lakh rupee loan, which was the only loan that Warikoo Khandan had ever taken so far. In fact, forget that. It was the only loan that somebody was willing to give us because we weren't qualified for that loan ever. So to take that loan and to decide, when I had offers from other reputable places as well, here's what I did. Before ISB, I had only one job. That job used to pay me 14,000 rupees a month. The EMI of the 14 lakh rupee loan was 20,000 rupees a month. And my question was not कि ISB जाके मैं छक्के चौके मारूंगा, McKinsey कितना देगा, BCG कितना देगा, चलो नीलामी करते हैं. Nothing like that. I was completely at the other end, which is, if I go to ISB, can I get a job that pays me 35,000 rupees in hand, which is the 14,000 I was already earning, and the 20,000 EMI that I would have to pay as an additional cost to my life. That was the only question I asked. And then I actually asked people around, hey, you've been at ISB, do people get 35,000 rupee job? And they looked at me as if I was a COVID star. And like, what is wrong with you? Like, तुम अगर इस ambition से आ रहे हो तो seat छोड़ी तो किसी और अच्छे ambition वाले इंसान को seat मिल जाएगी. But that was my bottom of the pyramid. So I land up at ISB and everyone's like, इतनी salary लेके आया हूँ तो दुगनी तो लेके ही जाऊंगा, तिगनी तो होनी चाहिए, so on and so forth. And I was like, 6 lakh रुपए की नौकरी कहाँ मिलती है? Because that was my only worst case scenario. I knew that if I covered that base, I would learn enough for me to set me up on a path that I could not have imagined for myself. It's the same thing in life. If you truly reflect upon your life, and I know nothing about it, so please pardon my judgment. If you truly reflect upon your life, I guarantee you, there is nothing that you need to be fearful of. The fact that you're sitting in this audience, the fact that you can speak English, the fact that you have a mobile phone, the fact that you have an internet connection, the fact that you grew up in a family that took care of you and gave you food, shelter, education, blah, 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 you are never going to die of hunger or poverty. Your base is covered. You are sorted. Your fear is, will I hit the ambition that I have for myself? But that's not an actual fear. It's just self-inflicted. Your actual fear is taken care of. Where's the fear then? The fear is society-led, self-inflicted, a combination thereof. And I am arguing here, relieve yourself of that fear. Relieve yourself of that fear, because the day you do that, you'll be so liberated, my friend. You will not care a F about what the world thinks about you, because you will be truly in line with who you are and where you want to be. That's the mode I want to be in. That's the same thing. That's how I made those pivots. Please.
So I'm working already. So I do have that above sits lat. So what would you suggest? I would save that 14 lakh loan, or should I I just want to explore. I'm pretty much okay with what I'm having.
Oh, awesome.
Ambition is there, right?
No, it's a great and an honest question.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what my mechanism is, because that's how it's worked for you. Please take a seat. For those who are in a quote unquote stable position, but also want to explore other things. We often hear this advice, quit your job to follow your passion. And that's just such horrible advice that I cannot even begin to start. It's so not founded in ground reality because it's just completely dismissive of what the world is about. I'd say, please don't be a fool to quit your job to follow your passion. Or if you're in this spot, just cover your base. Find something that pays for your bills, gives you a lifestyle that you are gainfully happy with. And then the only ambition you have is to take out as much time as you can for yourself. And when you get out that time, whatever that time is, whether it's nights, it's weekends, it's holidays and whatnot, please don't while it away on Netflix or YouTube or Instagram or any such thing, but spend it on exploration. Exploring like a student, exploring almost as if you are back at this institute and you're at a design curriculum where you have to figure something out in a 6-month period. It's a completely new course you have no idea about. Let's say digital marketing. Like, I wonder what it would be to become a digital marketer one day. And I have my job. I know that that's not a job for my life. And you want to explore, become a student of digital marketing for 6 months, including courses, internships, projects, freelancing. And at the end of 6 months, you will have an answer. And that answer will be whether you want to pursue it further or stop at this point of time. And if you want to pursue it further, take it along. The challenge in this is it's slow. It's not overnight. It's not a pivot. It's actually the most boring gradual transformation that you will go through from a caterpillar to a butterfly, but people want it overnight. They want to take ownership of their life as if they know exactly what they want to do, only to find themselves in another spot where they're lost just as were before. I would encourage not to do that. My transition has been always slow, very, very painfully slow. And I am ready to commit 2 years of my life knowing that it will set me up for 30 more years if I do it right. And I'm absolutely okay making that decision.
So sit in for GMAT and CAT this December. Is it worth it or other?
I have no idea. GMAT, CAT, NEET, UPSC भी कर ही लीजिए उसी समय. क्या पता हो जाए? Syllabus थोड़ा बहुत same ही है.
Also did sit for these two. So I'm
No, I like, look, oh, here's the other thing. Don't take advice of people. They mostly do not know shit. They certainly don't know what you're going through. They certainly don't know what you're going through. The best thing to take from people is to hear their experience and come up with your own reflection of what that means for you. But if you were to ask, should I sit for, just hypothetically, because you asked this question, should I sit for GMAT and for CAT both? And if I give you the answer yes, I know nothing because my skin in the game is zero. In fact, it's negative. Because I wouldn't even get to meet you, I'm assuming, after this moment. So आपके साथ खुदा ना खास्ता क्या होगा बाद में? मैंने तो आपको बोल दिया, आपने शायद अपने जहन में वो ले भी लिया, बोला ये तो अब करना ही है क्योंकि उसने बोला था. And then you find yourself in a completely different loop. And I have nothing to lose, nothing to lose. So please take advice only from people who have skin in the game, which very rarely is nobody else except you. Okay, lots of hands. Yes, please. Can we have? Could you have the mic shared there, please? Then I'll come to the back of the room as well.
Hi, Ankur. Thank you so much for this great talk. From watching your YouTube videos to listening to you right now, it's been a delight.
Thank you.
So this is Simran. I have 2 questions from you. First is a bit Gen Z, but I hope you could answer that. So how do you deal with FOMO, fear of missing out? As you mentioned yourself, you have been a confused person starting your journey. I might be in that same phase right now where I think we all are figuring out. How do you know that you're not just taking every opportunity right in front of you because you have FOMO, and actually knowing that you're actually getting out of your comfort zone to find and form meaningful connections? So that's my first question.
That's a great question. In fact, Director Rishi was alluding to this when he said the one big shift that I see, please have a seat, that I see in students is they're constantly spreading themselves too thin, constantly living in FOMO. And FOMO is, by the way, the 4-letter word in today's generation. And I don't know who to blame, but clearly you are to be blamed. No, kidding. First, and this is just the science student in me speaking, before solving a problem, you have to first articulate the problem. So you have to understand ये FOMO आया कहाँ से? ये FOMO आया है जब 1980 में मैं पैदा हुआ and I was growing up. मेरा comparison set maximum 50 बच्चे थे. students in my class, students who stay close to my house. That was it. So when my parents were comparing me, they were actually comparing me to a real entity. Like Sharma ji ka beta actually ek beta tha. An insan tha. I could actually go to Sharma ji ka beta, haan main hoon. Right? So I could touch and feel that person. And then in 2006, the social media boom happened. Where today, you are compared to everybody on the planet. And that means, irrespective of how awesome you are, there will be somebody who is more awesome than you. And that person will also be a real person. You've never met that person. You do not know of that person. You have no idea what it is, but that person exists. You cannot deny their existence. And that has crept this question, what am I not doing that this person is? And that seeds in the doubt. That doubt then travels and manifests itself in every single dimension. So you are on this lovely campus. There are 1,000 guest speakers coming in, 1,000 great professors teaching, 1,000 contests happening, business school competitions, ye competition, wo competition. And you're like, mujhe ye karna hai. And you're doing it puri shiddat ke saath. And suddenly you get to hear ki aapka batchmate wo kar raha hai. And then you're like, क्या मैं ही बेवकूफ तो नहीं हूं? क्योंकि वो तो स्मार्ट है. वो क्यों कर रहा है? वो ये क्यों नहीं कर रहा जो मैं कर रही हूं? And that doubt has been planted by the constant comparison that you've been living with when you open up Instagram and you see somebody's life better than you, somebody wearing better clothes than you, having a better pay package than you, going to a better school than you. Like मेरा तो हो गया, I am Bangalore में, लेकिन उसका तो Stanford में हो गया. I'm not making a judgment here. I'm just saying something. And मुझे तो 1 करोड़ तनख्वाह मिलेगी, लेकिन उनको तो $300,000 मिलेगी, जो कि ये है, वो है. मैं बैंड्रा में रहूंगी, वो नारिमन पॉइंट में रहेंगे. And it just takes you a completely different world. This is what you have to recognize, because that is the identification of the problem. The identification of this problem, if you truly sit with yourself and you absorb this, is more often than not 50% of the problem solved. But we don't articulate the problem well. We just don't. If you're facing a problem, here's a piece of advice that will help you, and thank me for it later. Whatever problem you're facing, write it down. Write down the problem literally like the way we used to solve our algebra questions in school. Diagram, given, to prove, hence proved. Yeah? And just hope कि neatness के लिए 1 number मिल जाएगा, क्योंकि solve तो किया नहीं है. But writing that problem is the first step to solving it. Number 2, there is no remedy to this. And I'm sorry to break your heart. There's nothing. In fact, I'd argue completely the opposite. What you are experiencing in the 2, 3, 4 years of college is a shortened version designed to give you a real life experience the minute you step out into the real world. This is not a poor reflection of what the real world is. Nah, this is just a stark reflection of what the real world is. Do you think when you step out into the real world, you will not feel FOMO? That you will not have time management problems? That you will not have politics throwing you here or there? That you will not have people thrust into you as a team where you had no choice to make around them? All of that is going to happen, and in abundance. And with the fact that if you fail in there, you will bear a far higher cost than you are in college. So do yourself a favor. Recognize this is a lab for the real world. And the best thing you can do as a scientist, even if you're not, is to go through the experiments in motion as if they were real life. So when you feel pulled in multiple corners, find or build a framework of evaluation. Test that out. Make that into the outcome. The outcome is not that you made the best decision sitting in school. No, the outcome is you derive the best frameworks to evaluate how to judge a situation once you're in the real world. That is the temperament with which you have to fight this FOMO. You are not going to get rid of it. Use it to your advantage, because that's the way you will set yourself up for success in the real world. Okay, I think we have time for one question and we'll take it from the back. Sorry.
Yeah, one more question. There are people.
Yes, okay, sorry. I should have there. Yeah, okay, why don't you go ahead? Yes, you. Sorry. Okay, there has to be a mic. Oh, there is a mic. No, it's being recorded and that's why I think it's necessary. Otherwise, you're audible. Buland awaz.
Thank you for that. So I had a question when one of the audience member told that, he asked that, what is the change that you need to come out of your comfort zone? And you gave answer saying that, choose a partner who is, don't be in a hurry to choose a partner. So what is an advice that you would give to a 20-year-old or a teenager? Because we can't choose partners so early, right?
कितने संस्कारों के साथ प्यारा बच्चा नजर ना लग जाए. So what I meant when I said a partner, in my, of course, case was a partner. Have a seat. I'm not asking you to choose a partner. And that certainly doesn't mean that 20-year-olds can't figure their life out because they're not in a relationship. What I broadly meant, and I'm sorry if you took it otherwise, find your tribe. Find a tribe that challenges you and gets you into the mindset that you would want to be. So all of you, or most of you, would have heard this beautiful quote, you are the average of the 5 people you spend time with. You would have. So that no longer holds. Not because you're not the average of the 5 people you spend time with. Broadly, you're the average of the 5 ideas that you spend most time with. Because the change that has happened, particularly for this generation, is you're not spending as much time with people as you are with concepts and ideas. When you open up social media and you're following someone's content, that individual is not a person you are aligned to in terms of being a friend, but certainly aligned to in terms of the ideology that they are planting in your head. If you do not have the right set of tribe built around you, you will always fall into the comfort zone. You need a tribe that is saying, क्या फर्क पड़ता है अगर तू हार गया? क्या फर्क पड़ता है अगर तू हार गया? मतलब क्या हो जाएगा अगर तू हार गया? And you're like, हाँ यार, क्या फर्क पड़ जाएगा? लोग हंसेंगे, शायद माँ बाप 1-2 दिन के लिए दुखी हो जाएंगे, मैं शायद खुद के लिए दुखी हो जाऊंगा, पर कुछ सीखूंगा कि नहीं सीखूंगा? And like, हाँ सीखेगा, हम तेरे साथ हैं, हम तुझे नहीं छोड़ेंगे, हमें कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि तू हारा है कि जीता है, हमें ये फर्क पड़ता है कि तूने कोशिश करी. That's the tribe you want. That's the tribe you want to be. As against, छोड़ना, क्यों लोड ले रहा है? आराम से काम करते रहे. Just coast your way through it. हो गई ना गूगल में नौकरी? Just coast. Just vest and live. Just keep vesting your stock. वो $1 million house मिल जाएगा, सबको मिलेगा. क्यों लोड ले रहा है? सब तो सुंदर पिचाई नहीं बनने वाले, तू क्या बन जाएगा? छोड़. And that's also a tribe. And you may believe that that's actually right advice because you know what? Somebody's telling you lead a comfortable life. Why would you say no to that? Totally okay with that too. But then don't complain the fact that you don't get to witness the outcome and the orbital change that somebody else has through that grind. So just build your tribe. And that's true for every single one of you. Build your tribe. PayPal Mafia के बारे में सुना है? कुछ लोगों ने सुना होगा PayPal Mafia, Flipkart Mafia, ये सारे स्टार्टअप्स में से बहुत सारे और स्टार्टअप निकलते हैं. Build your mafia. Build your mafia. Like generally होता है ना, that class of X produced for some reason stalwarts that have gone on to define an industry. How did that happen? How did that happen? It happened because people built a mafia and stuck around, challenged themselves, which is what you have to do as well. ठीक है? Partner भी ढूंढ सकते हैं बीच में. That's totally okay as well. Okay? Awesome. That's all that we had time for. I don't want to overrun. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. For those of you who did not get to ask, is it all right, sir, if they reach out to you through media and whatever? Yeah. 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 So. Yeah.
My last name warikoo@gmail.com.
Yeah. So now.
Check all my emails. Don't send me LinkedIn.
Great. So we addressed the FOMO issue. Thank you. So mostly today we saw that the myth of, one must imagine Sisyphus happy. This is what Mr. Warikoo, I think, I could be wrong, represents, that you go out, live life, and whether you win, lose, it doesn't matter, give it your best, and then whatever happens, happens. Am I fairly, yeah? Thank you so much. It was refreshingly wonderful. More often than not in this rigmarole of life where we are always with grades, assignments, projects, so on and so forth continues. He spent time here and to some degree, at least, we realize that there is a life outside of, where we move ourselves out of this monotony and take a step back and think over what we have done thus far. So thank you, sir, for this enlightening speeches. I now request our director, Professor Hrishikesh Krishnan, to hand over a small token of our gratitude to you. So Eximius 23 is officially open. Thank you all. I thank the college administrative department, the communications team, the security team, NSR cell, and of course, our eternal friend, the PGP office. So thank you all for being here, for taking out your time. And this concludes the opening ceremony. Thank you so much. Please be seated for the next speaker session, which is scheduled in about 15-20 minutes from now. Thank you. Thank you so much.
थोड़ा सा अरे मैं पहले तो अनाउंस कर रहा हूँ कि there's one more speaker session you can just Books, there's a speaker session next coming up of Nandita Sharma. You can stay seated. ये बोला गया है करने के लिए मुझसे
Please do that. I was like, you कैसे नहीं जाऊंगा मैं वापस? नहीं ये वाला नहीं ये वाला this is the other one. This is their one. सब कुछ ठीक है आमी will one
And one more. He will look at you.
Ankur,
Sir, one photo, sir.
Outside. I will sign it. I will certainly sign it.
Sir.
I'll certainly sign it. I'm not. Relax.
Literally, I'm the only shop, but बाकी सारे मुझसे बड़े हैं।
I thought. Check.